Friends, this side Rahul Magan here is a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting and also a venture capitalist, a $25 million company expected to be a unicorn by 2022 and 23. Today we're going to start about a very important topic, which is a very heated topic in Singapore and Hong Kong nowadays because of the property prices, and this topic is not being covered in the books as well. Well, there are two parts of this topic. The one part of this topic is of course this, and the second part of this topic is we can link this with the PPP also, which is private placement programs. But that part we are not covering. So basically, I would say that 20% of this part, which is linked with the private placement program, we are not covering. We're going to have another video about that. This video we specifically shooted for an institution, or basically a setup which is known as REIT, Real Estate Investment Trust. As you very well understand that Real Estate Investment Trust is a reality, and Real Estate Investment Trust is something which you will not get in India because there are not much there. Property prices are still controlled by a few corporates. Practically speaking, the government having no control over the property prices, and in most of the cases, in fact in majority of the countries, not in India, in majority of the countries, the government himself or the regulator himself do not know how many special purpose vehicles being created in that real estate trust. But real estate investment trusts are always faced with one problem, be it Singapore, Hong Kong, India, China, Europe, US, maybe Latin America, you just name that. They always face with one problem, and that problem is known as money. In fact, this problem is being faced by most of the people across the globe, which is money, because it's a high capex business. Like there are multiple high capex business which the world is having. Like you have telecommunication. Telecommunication is a high cost business. So once you set up the telecom lines, then you do the marketing expenses, then the customer will come, and there are times when customer don't pay. They end up default. It's a loss of your money. Then you have the internet business, then you have the oil and gas business. Oil and gas business is one of the most, I would say, the gestation business which we have. Gestation business means to say basically like you have to set up the undersea lines, and God knows the insurance costing you thousands of crores. It's a huge setup, and then you will get the oil, then you refine that. Again, in oil and gas there are big issues of flammability, incidences, accidents. There are a lot of issues, hell lot of issues with which we have that. But it's a high gestation business. Similarly, real estate investment trusts are also standing on the land business, basically the development of the land, and it's also a high gestation business, and especially in the countries like Singapore and Hong Kong, where space is very limited. If we exclude Macau from Hong Kong, because you know that we now have a company in Hong Kong which is Wondrous Capital Hong Kong Limited. If we exclude Macau from Hong Kong and just think alone Hong Kong with the Singapore, then Hong Kong is shorter than Singapore in terms of size. Now let me give you a very simple example of Singapore, and let me give you a simple example of a Hong Kong, because we based out both the countries, so we know that example. Now a very well-known place at the center of the Singapore, and our office is just 5 minutes from here, which is Marina Bay Sands, also known as the Central Singapore. Marina Bay Sands is actually having 3 towers, and aforesaid the 3 towers you have the ship, which includes the club, which includes I would say 1 or 2 restaurants, and also include the swimming pool. It is basically known for the swimming pool, But this land on which the Marina Bay Sands is based out, this land is a very costlier land, and this land is not $1 million, $2 million. This includes several $1,000 million, could be several $1 billion of land. And government of Singapore will not sell this land to any party, because government himself knows very well that the value of this land will grow over the period of the time as the Singapore will continue to be a financial center. That's a different thing, that now Singapore also started facing the heat, and now they are registering less than 1% or closer to 1% GDP growth rate, which creating several issues for the government, and maybe the jobs would also be an issue in the Singapore. But that's a different topic. We're going to speak a little later on that. Similarly, let's go to Hong Kong. You have a Hong Kong Convention Center, which is similar, almost similar design. I'm not saying they have a shipbuilding, but Hong Kong, like Marina Bay Sands, is just 5 minutes from the sea. Similarly, Hong Kong Convention Center is also 5 minutes from the sea. Hong Kong Convention Center is also situated inside the Hong Kong. Just opposite to Hong Kong Convention Center, you have the World Trade Tower, wherein all the big boys have their offices like Prudential, GS, and CLSA and whatnot. But the question is that these convention centers are built on a land which is very costly, and the value of this land will continue to grow irrespective of the fact that Hong Kong economy will grow by 1% or 3% or the Singapore economy grow by 1% or 5%. The value of this land will continue to grow. So real estate investment trust will always have one tension on the one weapon on their head, and that weapon is how would they going to get it renewed, because government never give the lease of 99 years. Government will give you a lease of 30 years, and both knows very well that after 30 years, once the lease would get renewal, then the price would be at least 3 times of what it is today. They need to resolve this problem, and more importantly, the real estate investment trust are also not standing on the only land which is Marina Bay Sands. They also have a huge amount of land. Now, some places they build the ports, some places they build the hospitals, some places they build the cineplexes and whatnot. So that really matters. So we have created a dummy example because we don't name any real estate investment trust here. It's not professional, but just a dummy example. So this is a real estate investment trust, but apparently if you go through this example, you will get to know this is how actually they work. This is real estate investment trust, and every real estate investment trust is having special purpose vehicle. The definition of the special purpose vehicle is it is a vehicle which is basically created for a special purpose. You have sometimes special purpose entity also, SPE. We are not here discussing what is the difference between SPV and SPE, but the hell lot of difference. It is just like we have difference between Singapore and Malaysia. Many intelligent people feel that SPV and SPE are more or less same, but actually they are not. They are completely different in nature, to be honest. Now this SPV could have anything. Example, real estate land with no minerals, possible. Singapore is an exception because Singapore do not have a land which have a natural resources. And long ago, one of the person from Singapore gave a statement that a land which do not have a natural resource is also a curse. Like there is a very famous statement we have in the world of corporate finance that equity is having its own cost. So when I was doing my MBA, I never understood the meaning of this line that equity is having its own cost. But now I understood that yes, equity is having its own cost, because for debt you are clear. Every year you are paying 3%, 4%. For equity, the person every time will look at you and say, hey, you got a 30% hike in your profit, give me 10%. But there is no limit, there is no end of the investor's appetite. That is something we need to see. But let's move further. So you have real estate land with no minerals, real estate land with minerals, hotels, casinos, convention centers, leased properties which are not owned but can be traded, hospitals, cineplexes, mines, very seldom. Real estate investment trusts have almost all. If we go to the real estate investment trust of US, where the land is plenty, US is not Singapore, land is plenty. Philadelphia, New York, Manhattan, Dallas, Texas, Florida and whatnot. They have plenty of land. Las Vegas. If you carefully see Las Vegas, people going to Las Vegas for fun, which is casinos, and you understand, what kind of actions is happening in the Las Vegas. But if you carefully see the business model of the Las Vegas, the business model of the Las Vegas is not different than we have the business model in Marina Bay Sands, which is casino, which is the business model of the Macau, which is casino. You have a lot of big casinos we have in US and Europe also. The business model is not different. You get a land on lease, you make this as a casino, and today people really wanted to spend at least several $100s per year on a casino. This is how the casino business works. Government of Singapore is charging, I think, 100 Sing dollars or maybe 150 Sing dollars. I need to check what is the right amount. I'll take an indemnification, but I think according to best of my knowledge, they charge 100 Sing dollars from the Singapore National while entering into the casino. Irrespective of that, people go and they do the betting. Irrespective of that, this is a very high profile business. God knows one day I would have my own casino, Now, these all real estate investment trust they own. Smart real estate investment trusts are always have good relationship with the good banks. Example, Goldman, JP, Standard Chartered, Citi, UBS, Barclays, HSBC, ANZ, Westpac, National Australia Bank, respective US and European banks. Two I have also mentioned, DBS and UOB. Yeah, the list is not, and this is not comprehensive, the space is limited. So we need to see that they are having with all Goldman, Chase, Standard Chartered, Citi, UBS, Barclays, HSBC, ANZ and all. Smart real estate investment trust have relationship with almost all REITs, and they play smartly. How they play smartly? They convert each of their properties into an instrument which is known as the trade finance, which is also known as the trade finance instrument. Sometimes it could be structured as per your own requirement. So example, without quoting the name of a restaurant we have at Marina Bay Sands, you go there and you order your dish. You are a Brazilian, you are a Chinese, you are an Indian, you are a Singaporean, you are a Malaysian, you are a British national, you are an American national, Australian national, New Zealand national, it doesn't make a difference to them. You order your dish and they make accordingly. This is structured. Now, generally, a lot of people come to me and say that, in which department of the bank we need to speak. In which department of the bank we need to speak when it comes to dealing with these instruments. The right department is the trade finance. But at the same point of time, we need to see that trade finance department should be in sync with the front office. Trade finance cannot take up a call without having front office into the picture. So front office has to be in the picture, to be honest. Now here, you need to deal with these two people, which is trade finance, trade instruments, and this is trade finance structured trade instrument. I repeat, trade finance, trade instrument, trade finance, structured trade instrument. Because we talking about the real estate investment trust, and real estate investment trust always have different leasing agreements. So if you let me name two real estate investment trust of Singapore, Capital Land and Capel. Capital Land and Capel. They owned a lot of buildings in the central Singapore. Like if I correct that, the sale, which building is 5 minutes from our office, Marina Bay Sands, and I think the building, UBS building also is owned by them, and the building which is next to HSBC is also owned by them. So there are multiple buildings which we have owned by these two real estate investment trusts, which is Capel and the Capital Land. Their leasing requirements, in some cases they are the payer of lease, in some cases they are the receiver of the lease, but net they always are the receiver of the lease. In their cases the leases are different. We are not here discussing IFRS 16 and IFRS 17, the implications of the leases on their P&L. We can have a separate video in that regards, but the one important problem they always faced is the money. They need money. If you today buy Marina Bay Sands spending 1.5 or to $2 billion and all of a sudden you got another land. Let me give you an example. The government is ready to give you the land because government is creating a port, and that port is little far from Singapore. So government ready to give you a land and that port, and the value of that land is $2 billion. And government is very clear, you need to pay 1.5 billion upfront. That's 0.5 billion you can pay in tranches, and then government can see what all lease the government can charge. You need to convert this land into a financial instrument which is known as SKR, which is known as safekeeping receipt. There are, like you can see here, there are 8 types of safekeeping receipt and 16 types of bank guarantees which we have. 8 types of safekeeping receipt and 16 types of bank guarantees which we are having. Now please be note that most of the people across the globe in fact do not know that how many types of safekeeping receipt which we have. We are not here discussing the how we can execute the safekeeping receipt. This is a consultancy work. You need to, it's not something which is in the public domain. Few types of safekeeping receipt are single collateral, single user, single collateral, single user, non-collateral, multi-user collateral, multi-user non-collateral, tripartite SKR. This SKR is the most efficient SKR we have nowadays. and real estate investment trust need to see that this SKR is very efficient. Then we have performance bank guarantee, principal protected, performance bank guarantee, non-principal protected, financial bank guarantee, principal protected and non-principal protected. I know most of the people would be looking at here and looking at why I am referring principal protected. Like I told in the earlier video, when I was in Singapore, because nowadays I am in India because we are working on our bot which is Julia, and Julia is all set in next 10-15 days. So Julia is coming, that is why I am here and I am spending a lot of time on Julia. As soon as Julia is done, I will move to Singapore again. Now the question here is that recently in Singapore, without quoting the name of an insurance company, that insurance company claims that they are giving the insurance on the valuation of the bitcoins, oblique the tokens. I am yet to get the copy of that, but they have given this statement publicly at one of the conferences at Marina Bay Sands. I am damn sure if you are giving this statement at Marina Bay Sands, it holds something. It really holds something, because in Singapore you cannot give the statement until you are basically until you are sure of that, because everywhere it is getting recorded. Nowadays banks have started issue or linking their trade finance instrument with one thing, which is principal protected. And the traditional instruments are also there, which is non-principal protected. To cut the long discussion short, this entire type of real estates can be converted into 8 types of SKR and 16 types of bank guarantee. But all the people, those who are watching this video and they are Indians, if they are thinking that Indian banks can make this happen, then you are wasting your time, because Indian banks currently are not in a situation even to pay their salaries. We know many instances when the public sector undertakings recently asked their employees that they are not in a position to pay salaries, so they need to wait to get their salaries from them. Similarly, Indian banks, Indian financial architecture is not devised in such a way that they would be able to offer you 8 SKRs and 16 types of bank guarantee. For that you need a foreign bank on the board, and that foreign bank is always Goldman, JP, Standard Chartered, Citi, UBS, Barclays and all. Most importantly, once you have this SKRs, like all single user, multi-user, tripartite and all, you can get this monetized from the same bank. There are a lot of people coming to me and saying that I will get the issue from JP Morgan and get this monetized from Goldman. Your boss, think holistically. Why do Goldman monetize that? Why do Goldman would monetize your SKR or a bank guarantee when it is issued by JP Morgan? It is better you go to JP Morgan directly and take it from Chase. And if you issue it from JP Morgan, get it monetized from JP Morgan. Why are you going to Goldman? That's very simple. It's a clear logic. The real estate investment trust can convert their lands into the SKR, and from where they get this monetized. There are 3 ways of monetization. One is recourse, one is non-recourse, one is sharing. One is recourse, one is non-recourse, one is sharing. We also need to agree that these SKR can be structured, and these can be structured using one department which is known as the trade finance department, who issue the structured instrument. So every big bank of the globe, big boys, I call them big boys, Goldman, Standard Chartered, UBS and all, they have 2 types of trade finance. One is for the normal public. One is for the people, those who have the requisite requirement, which is known as the structured instrument. This is the way through which the real estate investment trust, you name this as capital land, you name this as capital, they would be able to convert their land and everything into the monetization and able to resolve the problem of the funding. This is the rightest approach. Rather than having several billions of loans in their books on which they are paying a regular interest, and this interest is coming in the debit side of their P&L, and in some cases they have the foreign exchange exposure also. Because if the capital land and the capital will go to banks and ask for the money, they will never get in Sing dollars in all the cases. They are Singaporean companies, but every time they not get in Sing dollars. They sometimes get in US dollars, they sometimes get in Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar and God knows what currency. In these instances, it is very important for them to have SKR into picture. Safekeeping receipt is very important, and safekeeping receipt can serve a lot of purpose for you, trust me. This is what we wanted to discuss today. With this, Treasury Consulting would like to thank you very much. You know my mobile number 919899242978, 919899242978. You know our fixed income platform www.fixedincome.global, www.fixedincome.global. And before winding, do not forget that our e-commerce operations is on the way. And I hope you like this t-shirt. And we have a better t-shirt which we are coming up with our apparel brand TRFX. Julia, the world first derivative bot, is on the way. There are multiple actions which is being taken by Treasury Consulting. To wind up this video, we are very fortunate that few independent investment bankers, not affiliated investment bankers, they confirm that with the e-commerce operations, somewhere between 22 and 23, Treasury Consulting will touch the unicorn status, which is a $1 billion valuation company. We are waiting for that day, but I assure you that before 2022 and 23, there are a hell lot of action which is going to happen from Treasury Consulting. We will never sleep, neither we want you to sleep. This is how it works. The big boys, right? All the big boys, be careful. Whatever they hide it in the last 50 years coming in the public domain. With this, Treasury Consulting, thank you very much, and I hope you understood the importance of SKR, and as a real estate investment trust, you learned how SKR exactly works. More videos are on the way. Talk soon and have a good time.